variable inside C Sharp script for Unity game development. Okay, how will I teach you by making a very simple mini game to tell you how we will actually use a variable to achieve some result, not just talking about a variable what's its theory, no, but actually using it. So what I have done, I have created a game for Android, like by creating it actually and then going to build settings and changing and switching the platform from PC, Mac, Linux standalone to Android. And then I added a platform, something that can resist the fall of our player, that this is the player, and they have rigid body and colliders so that they act like real world objects and they collide with each other. So I will not confuse you much now. When I tap on, when we play this game, okay, by pressing, either pressing this or pressing command B or control B, tap tap tap, this thing is jumping. So in this mini simple game, how we can use variable, I mean, this is the minimum simplest game that you can make. And in that game, how can I understand what is a variable? I mean, okay, it's jumping. What is the variable doing here, or what a variable can do here? So what this game is doing, when I tap, this thing jumps mean its y-axis, its up and down value changes. That means currently it's at -4. Minus doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Minus mean it's at the downside of your y-axis. Y-axis means from your head to your feet. And suppose your body is your navel center, that is your center of body. Anything below that is on the negative axis. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, it means on it's on the other side. And if it is on upside, maybe your mouth, your chest, that is positive y-axis, like that. Understand that. I mean, your left arm is negative x-axis, your right arm is your positive x-axis, and you are at the center, that is 0. It doesn't mean the left arm is not existing. If it is negative, it means it's on the other side. Understand that. Okay, when we jump, when we tap, its y value should change. That is what this game is doing, changing its y value to something when we tap on the screen. So what is that? How we are doing that? By using the C sharp script, by using that C sharp programming language. Do not confuse, that's not a tough thing. How we achieve that? By creating a C sharp script and attaching this to the player. I mean, this player has other properties also: transform, sprite renderer, rigid body, box collider, all those things. And along with that, we have attached the C sharp also. C sharp is one of the component. It's not everything that you will need to know. Okay, it's one of the component that you will need for the interactivity and to make the game playable. I mean, adding many more things that are not built in. That is what C sharp programming language do. Okay, now we are understanding the variable. Do not confuse. When we created the C sharp script, we attached it to the player, and we now opened it inside a code editor. Now understand, variable is data, something that holds data. And in a script, we need two things: data, that, what is data? I mean, we want to run, how, by what speed we want to run, we want to jump by what amount we want to jump. That is data. That are the variables and the data part. I mean, there are various types of data types, but variable is one of them, data type. Okay, and this part is functionality part. I mean, where we run the functions, where we actually use the variables. Not just by just creating the variables, that will do nothing. Suppose if, okay, I want to, what are we doing when we are touching means if we input, touch means input dot get button down, then in the comma fire button, that means tap on your phone screen, transform this thing, dot translate, its y-axis should translate mean change. Transform dot translate takes three arguments. This is x-axis, this is y-axis, this is z or z-axis. And what we are doing, we are only changing it on y-axis. When we tap, its y-axis should become 2, mean should change by 2. Okay, that's what we did here. Play it again. I mean, I want to make it so clear to you. If you understand things will make sense. If you do not understand them, you will confuse further. Okay, do not confuse yourself. If you understand this thing here, you will be able to use this in other languages also. You do not have to worry. Okay, now what we did, we used a value 2. That is hard coded value. I mean, if I wish to change this to maybe a bigger jump, maybe make it 4, I am changing the number. I do not know what 4 means. I mean, if someone is coming over here, okay, 4, what is that for? I mean, that's just a number. It could have a name. Why doesn't it have a name? So that's what we do for our convenience. A data value. I mean, instead of writing 4, we could write just here. Okay. Instead of writing 4, I want to make it like jump value on y axis. So I understand, everyone understands, and the computer will also understand, because that's what it do. It takes our orders, but just by writing this, it will not understand. We have to create this variable. We have to assign a value to the variable, and a variable has to have a type also. So if I create this variable right now here, jump value on y-axis, it will give an error, because our program doesn't know what does it mean. If I give it a value of like 3, still it is wrong, because jump value, what does it mean? Is it the name of something? Is it something else? Our computer is asking, what does it mean? What is the type of this variable? Okay, we say it is a float. Float means number, like 1.2, 2.2, 1.2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like that. We could write int also, but float is what we mostly use, because things can be like 2.5 also, 3.5 also, like that. Just do not confuse. We create a variable, and a variable has a type. This is the type. It's a float type. A name, it should have a name. Just float equals to will be wrong. It is invalid. Float 2 still invalid. Jump on y-axis. So what does 2 means? We This equal means assignment. Now this value is equal to this. Okay, now this jump value over here means nothing but 2. It still means, I mean, it still means a number. Computer is taking a number out of it, but for our convenience, we gave it a name and then gave it a value. That became a variable. And now, if we want to further make it easy for us, we will call this function public. Public means it will be visible to us from many other places. Come back, and you see jump value on y-axis. This variable is visible in our Unity editor also, and it has a value. We can change it over from here. We do not have to go back to the editor, that code file again and again. Now if I play, it will jump by how much? By 3. Jump is a bit higher. You see, it's going a bit above. Okay, that is a variable. Variable is a data type. It holds data, and when you make the game, you will require, and your that will come naturally. I mean, okay, now I want to change it, I want to rotate it, I want to jump it. Okay, I need a value. What is the value? I will need to create a variable. That's how easy it will become to you. I mean, just put this thing in mind. Variable is just a data type. And okay, we just create this thing, do we have to create this thing over here only? Can we do this if we remove it from here and come here, declare it here inside a function, but this jump on y-axis will now only be available for this update function or some other function wherever we declare it. If we try to use it somewhere else, if we create another function, suppose let's create a dummy function void jump up. Okay, I'm just creating an imaginary function that I will may not use. Okay, now what should happen? Transform trn nsf transform dot trnsla translate. On x-axis it should be 0, on y-axis it should be jump. What is the name of that function? Jump value on y-axis comma 0. Okay, now this will give me an error. It will say this function is local to this function. It will come eventually. Let's call this function. I mean, this might be too much for you right now. I am calling this function over from here, and now come back to this code editor. This is saying jump value on y-axis does not exist in the current context. If I open this in the file, this is invalid because this function is local to this. If I take from here, put over here, store, whether I make it, it is by default a private. I mean, I can write private over here, but it's understood it is a private variable. If I write public, then it becomes a public. Now come back, the error should go away. Ignore that. Okay, now let's jump. What does that mean? That is happening by default, because we created a function that is also changing the value on y-axis, and it get called here on every frame, and it happened automatically even without our touch. I could just put it over here. I could give it some other condition also. If this is above that, then this should happen like that. Let's do that. I mean, okay, I will not confuse you much. That is the function part which I will teach you next. Okay, I will remove this. I will remove this. Now it is just a variable used here over here to make a jump as easy as it can be. Ask me questions if you have doubts. Okay, thank you guys, have a great day.